Philippine City volunteers distribute aid supplies to tricycle drivers in Quezon City. In Indonesia, a woman with brain tumor turns from a receiver to a giver. Welcome to Diet Headlines. I'm Siri Su. Thank you for joining us. Today, Philippine chapter continued distributions, which started last year to help workers like jeepney drivers and tricycle drivers. Recently, City volunteers in Manila carried out another round of distribution, giving rice and living supplies to more than 400 tricycle drivers. Putting supplies onto the tricycle, Marlon Ronda leads City volunteers to his home as the place is just built with cardboard boxes and a mosquito net.
If I sleep on the tricycle or the sidewalks, I can save money because I don't have to pay rent, water, or electricity fees. I'd rather save every penny so I can pay for family expenses.
This is the daily life of workers in Manila, Philippines. Before the pandemic, though the workers have limited income, they can still manage living expenses. But as the pandemic struck, less tourists arrived. This heavily impacted tricycle drivers as many lived in poverty.
The rice and foods given by Tzu Chi during the pandemic helps us a lot.
The Philippine chapter continued its distributions, which started last year. On this day, many tricycle drivers returned with their bamboo coin banks.
Tzu Chi taught me to share. During the pandemic, they shared blessings with me. I also wanted to share and help others in need. We cannot always receive help. I must work hard so I can help others, because I want to return the favor to Tzu Chi. They have helped me a lot during the pandemic.
Putting the bamboo coin bank onto the tricycle, during business hours, tricycle drivers asked for the donations, as the power of kindness started to have its impact locally. Also in the Philippines, relief distribution held by Tzu Chi has not stopped. Starting from March this year, the recipients are visually impaired friends who have lost their jobs. Due to the pandemic, they have no income, but they're still very optimistic. So the volunteers hope that the materials received can help them get through the tough times.
Bags of daily necessities are successfully passed from the van to the distribution site. This is Tzu Chi's third month of relief distribution in Antipolo. It allows local blind families to still receive assistance.
We found out that Tzu Chi Foundation will give us 20 kilos of rice and groceries, which is really a big help for us since we don't have jobs. Tzu Chi Foundation is a big help to us.
Although these people with impaired vision cannot see, all of them are extremely talented. They lost their job because of the pandemic, but they still face life optimistically. On this day, they also perform Tzu Chi songs to express their gratitude.
They showed us a song of love and care for all attentively. Although there are not many opportunities to meet in the future, they can continue to sing our Tzu Chi songs, which is also a kind of Dharma sharing.
Volunteers also promote vegetarian food every time they hold a distribution. A city government staff specially shared with everyone her transformation since she started becoming a vegetarian in November last year.
I was able also to listen to Tzu Chi Foundation's contemplations about food. Basically, what I started is just to rethink the food that I eat. So I did not eat any meat at all for about a month. I have a better lifestyle right now. So I think it's really good that I was able to turn it around.
Rowena's appearance made friends of Association for the Blind eager to be vegetarian. Tzu Chi hopes that after everyone's lives are back on track, Their bodies will become healthier due to the changes in their appetites.
Affected by the pandemic, Tzu Chi Thailand chapter has suspended its free medical service for refugees, but its care continues. It provides online consultation to serve patients and has a dedicated person to deliver medicine, so medical treatment of the patients with chronic diseases will not be delayed.
Due to the continuous spread of COVID-19, Tzu Chi Thailand chapter also cooperated with the government's policy to suspend the services of free clinic. Yet, Tzu Chi is still doing its best to provide medical services to refugees. The medical team continues to deliver medicine to them. These drugs are mainly provided for refugees patients suffering from diabetes, high blood pressure or congenital disease, etc., who must continue to take medicine. First, the medical worker will review the medical records of all the patients and carefully evaluate one by one to see which patient really needs help.
Apart from delivering medicine to chronic patients every month, we also serve the patients referred by other NGOs and UNHCR. Our doctors will diagnose their condition and prescribe the suitable medicine to make them feel at ease.
แล้วนอกจากไข้ไอเจ็บคอแล้วมีอาการอย่างอื่นไหมคะคุณลุงเนี่ยเดี๋ยวหมอจ่ายยาเหมือนกับที่กินแล้วก็เดี๋ยวจะเพิ่มยาไขมันไปให้ Okay, thank you very much. I order for you 1 month. Okay. Good luck.
According to the principles of prescribing medicine, the doctor will refer to the patient's preferred medicine, their medical records, and what kind of medicine they usually take. If there is any differences from before, I will communicate with patients and confirm which drugs they are currently taking. Also, I will ask the patient if he has another health conditions and if he lacks any kind of medicine recently. All these are the ways of conducting consultation during the pandemic.
This group of refugees is really pitiful. As refugees, they have to face a dilemma of medical expenses. Especially now during the pandemic, it is even harder to get medical treatment. So I'm very grateful to Tzu Chi for giving this group of people opportunities to receive the treatment, at least providing them with the basic medicine to relieve their disease. It's a very good activity, so I'm very happy to participate.
From many nationalities facing many problems, I got this opportunity to deliver the medication to patients all over the Bangkok. I'm very grateful for this opportunity I received to be part of their team, to help a lot of refugees that require medication every month.
Because of COVID-19, the free clinic has been closed, but they came to my home to give me the medicine. As during COVID, asthmatic medicine is very important to me. I'm very grateful to Tzu Chi and this team.
As medical treatments cannot be delayed, during epidemic prevention, the free clinic held by Tzu Chi Thailand chapter adjusted its way of providing medical services, reducing the risk of infection among the public.
In Indonesia's Bekasi city, a woman with brain tumor is unable to pay surgical fees since her family lives in poverty. But after her friend's introduction of Tzu Chi, volunteers arrived to help her pay fees. As her physical condition improved, she's no longer receiving help from Tzu Chi. She's now saving up in coin banks to help other less fortunate people.
Besides not being able to see, Yanti can live properly now. And it's hard to tell that 6 years ago, she was once close to death.
Makanya saya bersyukur sama Tuhan.
At the time, I had a brain tumor. The doctor told me to get a surgery, but we didn't have money, so we dragged on the surgery date. I'm thankful to my son and husband because they helped me whenever they had time.
Biar mereka kerja semua, tapi tetap ada waktu buat saya.
The filial son is heartbroken to see his mother suffering. Thus, he tries to borrow money for the surgery. After a year, in 2016, under Tzu Chi's assistance, Yanti finally got a surgery.
Mama sakit, mulai drop tuh keuangannya.
When my mother got
Drop,
sick,
tuh bener-bener
medical
drop
fees
banget.
were high, which made the economic situation in our family tougher.
Ke wihara-wihara, ke
I borrowed money from my workplace and relatives, yet it still cannot pay for the surgical fees.
Semuanya pokoknya ngebantu semua.
Yenti, after surgery, appears to be in a better physical condition, as volunteers continue to make regular visits. The mother and son also decided to turn down Tzu Chi's help, becoming a giver through donating to the Bamboo Coin Bank. Tzu Chi has helped us a lot, and now that my mother is feeling better, I wanted to help others. It's a blessing to be able to help others.
Inilah salah satu keberhasilan.
The chance of the mother and son is what we'd like to see. Now they not only donate to the Bamboo Coin Bank, they have also become a Tzu Chi member. They went from receiving to giving.
Menjadi donatur di Tzu Chi.
The table full of bamboo coin banks is the love aggregated from Oi Frankie's friends and family. As Frankie said that he wants to help more families in need with the power of love.
31 years ago, Dharma Master Zheng Yan introduced the concept of recycling by encouraging Tzu Chi volunteers to personally care for the earth. In at least 19 countries around the world, there are more than 10,000 recycling stations and more than 110,000 recycling volunteers actively protecting the earth. In China, this mission is very important, as 2/3 of the cities in China are struggling to process growing amounts of garbage. An approach of reduce and recycle is one solution to the growing garbage problem.
A heavy snow falls with the temperature reaching -17 degrees Celsius. Here in Harbin, 86-year-old Wang Jinghua dresses warmly. And goes out to collect recycling which other people ignore.
We cannot let any item slip away, yet you really are enthusiastic. You can see below the car and collect this recycling for money. It's good and valuable.
Elders say earning money may be the result of fate, but her joy is right here as she works non-stop.
I'm doing what my heart wants, and it makes me happy. If you don't let me out of the house, my body will feel restless.
She's full of energy searching these streets, and this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law pair are committed to this cause. It's hard work to walk in the snow, and the weather freezes one to the bones, but they are still warm and confident.
Before I weighed only 27 kg, just skin and bones. Yes, I would have to stay in the hospital twice a year. In the early days, after I did recycling, I won't need to go to the hospital. This made me happy to do recycling all day long.
This pair drag resources that are larger than themselves, as recycling begins with a single step.
As an old age of disciple must cheer up the master, I still have a fight in me, and I want to live to the last breath and continue to do recycling.
Residents of Donglei Village, Zhangzhou, Fujian Province, live near the Julong River. See a lot of garbage float on the surface of the river. One individual, Shou Ying, who is nearly 80 years old, carries her homemade net to pull plastic from the water.
I pick up these plastic bags and collect them for the recycling.
Doing recycling for more than 7 years. Before that, she was addicted to the Mark 6 lottery.
She once used a calendar to study the Mark 6 lottery, but she later said that her head would hurt after going to do recycling. She used this calendar to see when it was Saturday and Wednesday because we did recycling on Saturday and participated in study group on Wednesday night.
Showing grandmother's recycling work is from dawn to dusk, and when there are festivals, she is so busy that her calf cramps. She always rubs medicine on it to keep going. She fears that others will worry about her doing this work, so she falsely reports her real age.
I am 28, and we will continue to do it. If I deposit 50 years in the age treasury, I will only be 28, and I can still do recycling for a long time.
I believe that doing recycling is the same as eating. Do we need to eat every day?
While they treat recycling as natural as eating, their work is more difficult and intense as they work as much as 13 hours a day, despite an intense fish smell. Two women work the trash cart next to the market, hoping to recycle all the bottles used for ice. These bottles are scattered all over the place. Each bottle is tightly wrapped in a plastic bag, which has to be removed with their hands.
The amount of resources used in the wholesale fish markets have increased dramatically. When I saw so many resources being wasted the first time, I was a little surprised, and then I worried about the difficulty of this recycling. But then I thought that what the master said, which was right actions, must be done.
Now they are busy morning till night, regardless of wind, rain, and sun. Still, there is one obstacle to overcome.
I don't earn enough on these items. It's not enough to cover my shipping costs.
Oh, if you don't accept these things, they will all have to be buried, and nature will not be able to digest it. As much as we can, she should really come together to do good deeds. It is rare that there are good people like us. Though we are a little tired on the first day, but later, like the next day, we are really happy and willing to do more of it.
Ma Wenshu is the first Tzu Chi volunteer in Hebei's Lanfang, and her 5-year-old recycling journey, which began with just one person, now involves a whole team.
We put a windshield on the front, and the button is blocked from the wind as our legs still have to tightly covered. Originally, our electric vehicle car did not even have a carport. We went to the Shimeto shop to buy some sheeting, and then we got this carport, so we don't have to worry about wind and rain. This is our eco-friendly house.
These are the sisters who usually walk on the streets and alleys. I believe that there will be more in the future.
During the pandemic, protective gear is in high demand. MIT protective clothing is sold to different countries. But ever since the pandemic broke out again in May, the demand locally increased as it requires high production. It takes 3 weeks for a vendor to deliver orders. Although the materials are sufficient to meet a high demand, if the pandemic never eases, more people will have to work at the production line.
Protective clothing is like an armor of medical staff. When the pandemic became severe, more protective clothing is used. But since the cloth itself can only be used one time, and it's quite tough to process the used protective clothing. Due to this, Taiwanese vendors promoted protective gear that can be used multiple times.
Raw fabric is being cut by different machines with the help of lasers. The protective gear comes into shape.
It can quickly change the shape of cloth. Now we are producing protective clothes for a biotech company who is responsible for making vaccines. Factories that produce these vaccines have a higher requirement on protective gear.
After manual sewing, the protective clothing is close to completion. In the past, foreign sales took up to 80%, yet as the pandemic situation got more severe locally, most protective clothing are sold locally.
台湾是有点出乎我们的意料就对了。今年
The recent situation in Taiwan is beyond our expectation. Around this year, like a month ago, our stock is mainly sold to local markets.
Using special fiber cloth, the protective gear must be stress tested before leaving the factory. The first test serves the purpose of testing water pressure resistance. This test is to test the water pressure resistance of the clothing using this machine. When there are 3 water droplets on the cloth, we calculate the water pressure resistance and determine if this cloth material is good for blocking out certain body fluids. The second test, the water spray test, makes sure that dirt, bacteria, and dust does not go through the protective clothing. For the past month, vendors received more orders, as it will take 3 weeks from ordering to receiving the gear. Thankfully, materials are still sufficient. The product that is quite popular recently is this antibacterial spray. Under the pandemic, vendors donate their own products in order to protect frontline medical staff.
Because originally we have connections with hospitals and governmental organizations, we posted information out to medical associations like the Taipei Medical Association. Some associations or organizations we donated to include organizations of education and culture, so if they need supplies, we will answer their call.
The eye technology also joined into the efforts to prevent COVID-19 with their protective clothing, constructed from eco-friendly materials.
里的话，因为是亲肤哈，所以要舒适，所以这个我们会使用尼龙的材质。
COVID prevention supplies are also given to units in need. COVID prevention-related orders are treated as a priority, as many seek to provide the safest and secure protective gear to frontline medical staff. To ease the anxious minds of COVID-19 patients, the medical staff at Taichung City Hospital has led the patients to do exercises. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.